We're going to reflect on the weekend sport, and joining us on the line to do that is our sports editor Derrick Lynch. Let's first hear from the Clare senior hurling manager Brian Lohan speaking after their disappointing defeat to Limerick on Sunday at Zimmerbeim and Pairc in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, 230 to 118. And Brian Lohan says his side just never got to the pitch of the game against John Kiley's side.
Very disappointing. Very disappointing all over the field. Disappointing for ourselves and obviously all our supporters as well. Didn't do anything like we wanted to do and were very ponderous on the ball. Touch very poor for long periods, and obviously very poor first half.
So that's Brian Lohan speaking after the game. And Derrick, a sobering afternoon and a difficult one to come out afterwards and speak when you haven't had time to gather your thoughts. But Brian Lohan sounding a bit almost bewildered as to where that performance came from, maybe from both sides.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any major surprise that Limerick would have put on the clinic that they did, but I suppose it was the lack of resistance really that they met in doing so that was probably the really, really surprising element of it. And even a couple of days on now from it, it's still a head scratcher, to be honest, because number one, I think there was no glove laid on a Limerick man throughout the contest really. Shane O'Donnell's hit on Shane O'Brien that, borderline perhaps if you were to look at it with neutral glasses on, but the one that there's no doubt that the Dermot Byrne's hit on Shane earlier on was certainly a dangerous one. But do you know what, in a lot of ways, and that was maybe a microcosm of the whole day, why that didn't spark a 30-man brawl is beyond me. For Clare to lay down a marker, Burns came in with intent there, and he was laying down a marker that they weren't going to be pushed around. Bear in mind, Limerick hadn't won their last 4 championship games. And I think I touched on Friday when we spoke about the game that they had never lost in Ennis in the Munster round robin either. So, they were going to be always coming full of confidence. And I just thought that hit in particular laid down a marker that we never responded to. That should have been a case of everyone on the sideline, this is our house, you don't come in here and treat it like that. And Clare just didn't do that for whatever reason on Sunday. And as well as that lack of intensity and lack of bite, we saw some players just decision making was shocking at times. The players standing to hit the ball in the middle of a Munster Championship game, you can't do that. You don't do that at under 14 level, not to talk of inter-county level. And you go back to Tony Kelly's goal chance. Now, if the hand pass had come on to Shane O'Donnell, it was a certainty. But how often have we seen Kelly sticking those? Now, he tried to square it to O'Donnell. Sean Finn intercepted, fantastic interception. But again, it just was maybe the wrong decision at the time. And there was a couple of those across the game from a number of players. So it just seemed to be the perfect storm. Clare hit the perfect off day, Limerick hit the perfect on day, and a 15-point margin, whatever it was, it probably sums it up, to be fair.
And it just, I guess, shows how intense and how quickly fortunes can change in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, Derrick, after the opening win over Waterford. Really good start for Clare, and now defeat to Limerick means they have the break before they go to Thurles to play Tipperary on the 16th. But it's a real do-or-die game because Tip themselves, let's not forget, defending All-Ireland champions. At least Clare have a win under the belt. Tip, after 2 games, only have a single point to their name. They badly need a win, and it's going to be a really, really intense game.
It certainly is, and I suppose, look, from a Clare point of view, maybe as the days go on and the haze drops a little bit, you can look at it and say Clare were just off. In the story, it was just an off day, move on, we know there's better to come than that. Would it have been possibly more disappointing if it was a day in which Clare were rip-roaring and still lost? Is it easier to write it off when you just weren't on? I think so. But again, we have to see a response now against Tip. There's just no other option, really. And if you want to get old school about this, Clare are going to Thurles, a ground we don't mind going to. There's an opportunity to knock out the All-Ireland champions by beating them, and then you go to Cork with a chance of perhaps reaching a Munster final. Clare's scoring difference probably won't help them in that. I think it's -9 now after the weekend, which means that if 3 teams were to finish level on 6, that would be Clare, Cork and Limerick. Score difference would decide the final standing. So I think a victory against Tipperary will give Clare minimum 3rd place in the championship. And I think right now, this morning, and certainly yesterday morning, Clare would have taken that. But it's all about the response, and that has to be both on and off the field. There's no doubt, structurally, this Clare team needs a bit of a rejig. I think things need to be moved around. I think certainly the approach needs to be moved around. We're now looking at having conceded, 6 goals in 2 games. That's way too much. We lauded this Clare team for scoring 233 against Waterford on day one. We conceded 230 the last day. Again, that's way too much. And bear in mind, Limerick without Keane Lynch, without Aaron Gillan, and without Adam English for the last 15 minutes after he got sent off as well. So definitely changes needed on the field in terms of attitude, application and decision making, but I would suggest off the field it's a pondering time for management as well in terms of how they're going to set up a couple of personnel perhaps as well, and how they're going to manage it psychologically now for the next week and a half or thereabouts.
And Ger has texted us 086 1800 964 and I guess is expressing the I suppose just bewilderment of and frustration of a lot of Clare fans out there. He says, in relation to Sunday, body language shocking, bullied in every position, tactically inept, says Ger. Well, look, I mean, they have time, at least, Derrick, maybe that the break has come at the right time for them to regather themselves and go a tip in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, but we thought the break came at the right time as well to be right for Sunday, and we weren't. So I think that's what I'm saying in terms of the management now for the next couple of weeks. What happened in the previous 2 weeks that we don't see repeated again for the next 2 weeks? How does that get managed? I'm not quite sure. But that's the challenge. That's why they're in the job, and that's, I think people writing epitaphs and stuff like that after Sunday is a small little bit premature now. Let's wait and see how the next couple of weeks go, and then there can be a proper assessment, a proper analysis of the entire championship as a whole. A lot of the talk after the Waterford game was that yes, Clare showed that the step up from 1B to 1A wasn't hectic. Now it seems to be the common theme and the popular analysis that was Limerick played at a 1A pace, Clare played at a 1B pace, and of course you're talking about the champions of either division having met as well. So the other side of it is you're talking, that was a game where the 23 champions of the All-Ireland series played the 24 champions. So look, you can move that around any way you want to suit your own argument. But the reality is here, from a Clare perspective, they have to hit Semple Stadium in the same manner that Limerick hit Pairc. I'm not saying that they hit it arrogantly, but they came in without a fear. And a small thing, it's a very small thing, but we were waiting for Brian after the game to come out. He was having a chat with the lads or whatever, that's fine. But out the back of the tunnel, there was music blaring out of the Limerick dressing room, and it was just a total party atmosphere. And it just, to me, kind of, it stunk a little bit of, we're after bullying you off the field, lads, and we have no sign of stopping the house party either. It was just that they came in, they took over, but I think from a Clare perspective, we kind of let them a small bit. But now the response has to come. We have to go and do something similar in Semple Stadium, and I think no better group of men to lead them than what's there, but we have to see a response now. I think that's the bottom line.
Okay, look, we do have to leave it there, but Derrick, thanks very much for being with us.
Cheers.
That's our sports editor Derrick Lynch with us, reflecting on the disappointment at Zimmer by Met Pairc on Sunday and that tip game. Derrick will be with us to preview that come the time, and it's going to be really interesting, and also disappointment for Clare's minor herders losing at Cork in Pairc. Rinn